Ian Hume, welcome.
How are you?
I'm doing super
Good to
well.
see you.
Likewise, it's been a
Yeah, good,
while.
good, good. You bit older, a bit grayer, Then it's been a few years since we started chatting, and see you got a few more tats, which is good.
Yeah, I think I've exchanged hair for tattoos. I might.
Exactly. I haven't got there yet, mate. I haven't got there yet.
Yeah. So I think the last time we met face to face, we're in Sydney. You're at Lenovo at the time. So much has
That's
happened
right.
in my world, but more importantly, this is not about me. It's about you. It's what's been happening in your world. You've been a bit of a journeyman, traveling all over the world. What have
Yeah,
you been up?
yeah.
What do you? What?
Done a bit of Absolutely. I was heading channels for Dell, for Lenovo, for Hewlett Packard, and for Oracle in APJ. And as I said, you and I and your businesses and my sort of channel roles cross paths with Lenovo and Dell, and then various things happened. Sort of family challenges, and we had an opportunity to go back to the UK for 4 years, and I looked after the Dell channel, Dell EMC, Dell Technologies as it is today. So the data center business across EMEA, which was a brilliant job for nearly 4 years. So tons and tons of traveling, looking after 16 regions, and felt that I was never off a plane, and the air miles were going through the roof. But and then I had a year, just over a year, as a stint as a GM with Lenovo in UK and Ireland. But in all that time, I'm flying around, enjoying myself, and eating in nice restaurants and meeting wonderful people. But my wife and kids were not settled in the UK and chirping away, saying they wanted to get back to Australia. And we just sort of sat down, and as we do things, over a bottle of wine, it was kind of really quick and decided. So we came back to Australia in December, and
Okay.
as this year we came back to bushfires, as you know, in Sydney, and this year 2020 has been a shocker. I think I would have bought a lottery ticket if I'd known how this is going to turn out, but. Yeah, look, I mean, we tried to get settled, and ironically, the idea to come back to Australia was to get settled with the family and everything, and hasn't quite worked out that yet. But I'm now looking for a role, and we'll see where we go.
Yeah, awesome. So where are you? Sydney? Got the family in Sydney, mate?
Yeah. They're all in Sydney. All the kids, three kids, all settled around. In the Hills District in Sydney, and loving it. Just bought a house here, so I guess we came back as much as anything for the weather. So and it's doing us a favour these last couple of weeks. So can't really complain, mate. Can't really complain on that side.
Very, very good. Well, Sydney seems to get better weather than Melbourne, and definitely at the moment, you can go and visit cafes and restaurants more than we can in Melbourne. So enjoy it.
Uh,
Enjoy
yeah, I
it.
mean,
Enjoy the good times.
if there's one thing, I feel sorry for the friends and contacts in Victoria, and God bless them, because I've got friends and relatives there, and it's a tough time. But certainly in Sydney, very grateful for the life we've got here, and obviously keeping in touch with colleagues and friends in Europe all the time. And I think for all the challenges we got over here, we're in a good place really in Australia generally. So
Yeah. Yeah.
hopefully, and the IT economy, which is where I want to get back into, and where I'm very close to, seems to be picking up as well. And everyone's working from home and wanting opportunity there. So it's a good opportunity in the IT space, I think.
Definitely, definitely. And so you've worked many, many years in channel roles and country manager roles, and growing out patches and hiring teams and rolling out training and marketing, building business from the ground. Mate, you're a man of my own heart, although I do it on a much smaller scale. So I'm curious to learn a few things, and also curious to hear you share some of your thoughts around what are some of the things you'll think about as you go about building out a channel or building out a patch, and talk to the listeners around. And because I think talking around that channel, you can also talk around sales and business development, and apply some of those principles across the board, no matter what business you're in. But from your perspective, mate, I'd be really, really curious to hear your insights and expertise around what are some of the thoughts you have, what are some of the actions you think are really, really key, and some of the psychology and the mindset that you need to have as a leader when you're rolling out and building these channels.
Yeah, look, it's a good question. I mean, I guess throw it right back at you. You know, people like yourselves are the reasons why I love this job. You know, seeing, I always talk to my teams, and I've tried to keep within myself the feeling that when I'm dealing with channel partners, large or small, 9 times out of 10, they've invested everything they've got into that business and they've put their heart and soul into it. So, as a vendor, working for a vendor or a third party in that success story, it's very important that, myself and my teams respect the journey that you and others have come on. So I think that's always been my sort of guiding principle, that, it's not as simple as saying buy from my vendor today because we're the cheapest or we're the best or whatever. You've got to kind of respect. And I guess the driving principle when I've tried to build plans and strategies is mutual success. So, making sure that the package that we put together as a partnership defines your success as well as the vendor's success. And, I'm a simple person. What you see is what you get. There's no agenda, and I think people buy from people. So it's trust, it's simplicity, it's predictability. I guess those are always the kind of simple watchwords when you're driving it, when you're building a channel in on a large scale across EMEA or Asia Pacific, which I've done. Or in much smaller sort of tiger teams as well. I think that's the key sort of driving principle. Just being really clear, planned, and predictable approach. I think that's the driving principle that I've always employed. I think.
A lot of people can overcomplicate things, right, and add too many complexities that are not necessary.
Yeah, look, I mean, I wouldn't by any stretch of the imagination say I'm a finished article. I always want to learn. And, as I said, I've got a passion to learn and energy and that. And I like to, I hire people that complement and drive me. So, there's a lot of talk about diversity and having gender diversity teams. Well, I also think, yeah, that's good. But I also think, knowledge diversity is key as well. So people that will challenge the status quo. And I think, in my 20-odd years, 25 years experience, when I've seen and had the opportunity to sort of travel and different cultures and different approaches, essentially, as I said, it's the same thing. It's that sort of clarity of approach. But, I've also, I also see some failings, in channel teams where they will typically try to just, treat it as a deal, go in, do the deal, move on. And I think if I use that word consistency, it's about consistency of relationship, maintaining, account managers for longer than 2 years, so that the channel partner feels that they're embedded, they're invested in, and there's a long-term partnership, and not changing the remix of the program consistently. I think, if you're on the receiving end of a vendor that is flipping left and right or changing their methodology, that's not going to instill confidence in you buying from any vendor, whether it's Dell, Lenovo, HP, or some Oracle, or other vendors that I've worked for. So I just try to sort of be consistent. And it's funny, when I've worked for somebody like HP, which is HP and Lenovo, very, very strong channel partners. And when I started in Dell in the early days in sort of 2009, when they didn't have a channel, the feedback from the channel, as you can no doubt appreciate, was quite aggressive and competitive to that stance. But I think myself and my teams got through that and made it ultimately a very good success story in Australia and APJ when it started, was because we just said, look, trust us as individuals, and then we will give you the same level of service that you would expect from any of the major vendors. And again, back to that sort of people engagement, people management piece. I think that's where I and my teams will strive to succeed, where others maybe fall over because they treat it as a deal and sort of just move on to the next deal.
Yeah, that would have to be one of my only criticisms of sales professionals in our industry at times. It's not all the time, but occasionally you see people making it really transactional. And
Yeah,
yeah, and I've been involved.
transactional. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been involved with those type of vendors and deals in the past, and it's like sometimes you're sitting in a room and the vendor's just like wanting to get a sale, and quite often because there's pressure coming up the line to meet a number or something that's been called out, yet the client's requirement and the value for them kind of comes in at second, as opposed to what they need to get done as an individual, as a sales professional, and I don't know, it can get a bit clunky in terms of the sales process. So it's fantastic and refreshing to hear
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah, and then, yeah. That comment about mutual success. You know, if or me or my teams are driving an agenda that suits the vendor down your throat and saying, "Mr. Channel Partner, you've got to do this," and it's not right for you, then that's not going to succeed long term. You might be that have that lucky day that they buy off you, but they're going to be left with an interesting impression of you. And I think, a successful channel strategy is entirely built around partnership in all its facets. And I think that sort of driving that sort of mutual success, that partnership, that consistency is what will make it successful,
Mm.
rather than driving, a product point or a price point, or an agenda. And certainly, I'm saying that because I've learned the hard way. In my sort of early career, when I first came over from Australia, from England, I didn't want to go back. I wanted to succeed, so I was the gun salesperson, and I was smashing all my goals with Ingram Micro, and I was trying desperately to win everything and get on to the next role. And I remember a partner of mine, I won't name them, but a very loyal guy, who's still my friend today. And he said to me, he's a CEO of a business, and he said, I want business value, and it kind of threw me. What the hell does he mean? And this was 15, 16 years ago. And I was like, but yeah, we can throw all this money at you, and we're going to be a brilliant partner for you, and all this sort of stuff. And he said, no, I want long-term business value. So, it took a bit of medicine, and he sort of sat me down and taught me through it. And, I can't say at the time I probably got it, but just listening more to him in terms of what his business meant to him, where he'd come from, back to that sort of journey, and the investment that he placed in his own business, and what he saw as business value was longevity, and taking his brand for his business further in the community, rather than just being the cheapest, and therefore, having a competitive play. And then I guess reverse engineering that comment, that ethos back to Ingram Micro at the time, and taking it on to Hewlett Packard. So listening to the partner, and sort of retrofitting the vendor offering, to the partner's needs, rather than, and therefore working as one partnership, rather than just driving an agenda. And that guy is still good friends of mine today, and it was a lesson learned. And I can say his business was sort of down here. It shot up within the matter of years, because he trusted us then, because we could build that loyalty, because we listened, and I think, that's the thing with building a channel. You can look at all the analytics, you can look at the market by market, the opportunity size, and how you build your capacity and coverage, and your planning and programs, and etc. But it comes down to your relationships, and your core relationships, and how you build that as well.
Yeah.
So, that's
Yeah.
how I've always done it.
Yeah, very good. I mean, I'm similar as well. Like, I'm a massive believer in the 1%ers of the difference that make the difference at the end of the day. And I
Yeah,
think from a relationship and partnership perspective, when challenges come up, when there's problems, when there's obstacles to overcome, whether or not they're caused by your own team or external team or the other party, or even external forces, that's the biggest opportunity to respond and actually show your partner what you're actually capable of. Because in times like that, I find so many people are reluctant, delay, hesitant, or they'll avoid the challenge. Yet I just fucking get in there and address it and open it up, because you build trust. And if you can come from a place where you've got accountability and ownership in those situations, it goes a long, long way to building a long-term relationship, which ultimately will deliver commercial results.
Oh, 100%. I think, you know, whatever we call it, I think that that's something intrinsically that is not easily taught. You know, it's typically within somebody to recognise that. And I've found that, you know, when I hire, I try to look for you know, someone with a bit of a mongrel, bit of a sort of tenacious mentality, because you want that naturally salespeople, but you want somebody to care enough, right? You want you want somebody to care enough you know, to really give it that 1%, that extra. And I think, you know, if you can show your company that you work for, or you can show your partners that you work for and with, that you're willing to, you know, fight for them, then that, as you rightly said, I mean, trust is everything in the channel, isn't it? As you know, so because there's so many vendors out there, and there's, you know, somebody will always be able to sell a dollar for 50 cents, you know. So you've got to, your value add is your people and how you engage. So, you know, that's why, you know, as I've got further and higher up the roles, you know, NPS and Net Promoter Score, and how customers react and the audience reacts to yourself, your service levels is so important, you know. So you've got to be very mindful of that, I think, and that's, I guess that's the icing on the cake of the channel strategy, isn't it? You've got to kind of be mindful of how you the rubber hits the road, how your strategy hits the road, you know, and who's doing that.
Sure, sure. Do you have a, so when I'm about to build out a patch, which I, you know, it's funnily enough, all the roles I've had in my whole life, I've never had like, a lot of them when I was younger were sales-based roles, and there was, you know, bare patch, green patch, you got to go out and make it happen. I don't think I've ever, in any business in any industry, had an existing book of customers, and I wouldn't have wanted to. I love the fact that I love going out there and hunting and building. In my mind, there's certain things that I'm thinking about when I'm developing a patch. It's about brand identity, brand presence, getting some runs on the board, solidifying our position, getting the infrastructure behind the business so that we're able to transact initially. And then from there, once the foundations are in place, it's about then investing in the sales and marketing strategy and really building out the business. Do you have a framework in your mind at the start when you're about to build out a channel, some milestones or some key moments that you want to try and get to, just to keep everything structured in place? Do you have a framework or something in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the milestones can go anything from, you know, week 1 to week 13, and then onwards. You know, 13 weeks in the quarter and on. So, you know, you know, we used to do a lot of that in terms of the sales cycle and sales process. But in terms of, I guess, you know, building a channel, you want to kind of look at, you know, if you're looking at EMEA, for example, I said 16 regions, right? So, you know,
Wow.
the first thing that we did in terms of the milestones was really look at the market by market, you know, rather than just look at the elephant, which is, you know, the whole of EMEA, multiple billion-dollar opportunity, and TAM. You know, we look at the market by market opportunity. Then, you know, what's the size versus what, you know, where we are today versus where we need to be. So you're looking at, I guess, the situational analysis. You know, what's the footprint, and yeah, you know, when you're in with some of these large vendors, obviously you've got an established install base, but typically you've got the remit of the role is, you know, to grow a new business, to grow a new market, or to extend leadership or something like that. So, you know, you're looking at points of opportunity, points of weakness of your competition, and you know, I guess the milestones are how you start to turn that dial, how you start to, you know, make use of your, you know, distribution partners, your rebate programs, your rebate schemes to acquire new business. You know, so obviously your marketing engine is the fuel that drives the fire. So, you know, when you're looking at I guess the first 30 days in that process, will be saying, okay, you know, where are we at today? Where we need to be? So you're defining that sort of market opportunity. Then you're looking at the partners in each segment, you know, in each market, whether it's UK, France, or Germany, or it's Korea, Japan, and Australia. Then you could look at, what's the opportunity size, and that will in turn reflect upon your partner recruitment strategy. So, and then in turn, your capacity and coverage strategy. So, you might say, well, in the north or the south or the east or west, this is where most of your key opportunity is, but you obviously need to have the resources and the commitment there as well. So you've got your capacity and coverage playing into that place. You've got your, your 4P, your price, product, place, promotion, and service. Your strategies and how it's all wrapped up, and the offering that you give. I mean, that will impact us in terms of your strategic programs, your targeted programs. And then as that starts to build, the next milestone is, okay, well, partners will always talk about your gold, silver, bronze partners, or your titanium black partners in Dell's case, and so on. Where are they focused? How does your coverage map to their strategic direction? And then you start to look at it as it builds further. The next stage will be look at the customer propensity to buy and to sell with and to those partners. So your key partners might be focused on certain verticals, but your business might want to look at some other verticals. So again, it's a very fluid environment. It's a very fluid engagement. It's never there's an element of farming and engaging with your install base, but typically you're constantly driving new business and new ideas and new programs. And then, as I said, you're looking at the size of the market from the customer point of view. What's the size in terms of verticals? What's the applications targeted, and so on. So that in turn can build, a view of the ideal characteristics of the customer.
Yeah.
And then that in turn plays into your product strategy. And then therefore you marry your ideal customer with your ideal partners through the rebate schemes. So, as I said, it's without sort of being too sort of complex and intrinsic. As I said, you've got to start off maybe with market by market, customers versus partners, programmatic activities, market activities, capacity and coverage. And then it's just a repeat, analyze, inspect, go expect, etc. And there's my phone, so just bear with me for 1 second.
That's why it's called On the Fly.
There you go.
That might have been your next role. That might have been your next channel role.
It was my. You want to know? It's the captain of my soccer team asking me to play tomorrow. So
you're a soccer player as well, obviously.
Yeah. I'm 50 now, and as I said, I've been playing football since I was a little kid, and I can't get out of my blood, and my 3 kids, 2 boys and a little girl, they don't play football at all, but my top draw's getting fatter and fatter because of all the aids of my my knees and my ankles and all that sort of stuff. So so season ticket holder for Liverpool for my sins. So there's the signed Liverpool shirt down there, and Yeah. So big. Got it. All work and no play and all that. As they say.
Yeah, that's right. Is like exercise and fitness something that you make as part of your strategy? Is like productivity and staying happy as a human, and
I think so. I think happy mind. Whatever. Sort of. I think particularly when you see things like what everyone's going through in 2020. I think it's really important. To be mentally fit as well as physically fit, and for me they're intrinsically linked. I know that I'm susceptible to sort of down periods like everybody else, and I think as I said, family decision, coming back to Australia is lifestyle, right? So it's outdoorsy, it's more healthy in our view, and one of the key reasons for that. So I certainly feel much more energized when I'm here, and I think you know, I encourage my kids, and you know, my wife's the same, you know, to be active. Doesn't matter. You don't have to do a sport like silly arseholes like me, but you know,
Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
uh, you know, you just get out there and sort of enjoy life, right? So yeah, no, I played on Wednesday, played on Saturday, and I'm playing again hopefully on tomorrow. But I don't know, the right leg's telling me not to, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Classic, huh? It's yeah, it's I find it staggering how many people underestimate looking after themselves and then showing up for a professional role. I think too many people don't value it enough. Um,
You're spot on. You're spot on. I mean, I've seen people, you know, seen people sort of, you know, getting overweight, or you know, just generally not, as you said, not looking after themselves. And
yeah,
you know, I'm not a fitness guru by any stretch of the imagination, but I just think I know within myself that if I have a few weeks where I'm not doing something, even if
yeah,
it's just walking around the block or whatever, but going for a bike ride, I start to feel sluggish and a bit miserable, and
yeah,
you know, just not my top game. You know, not my best game. And I think you're right. I think you know, there's people are going through far worse things than I am right now, and I just think, you know, one of the simplest things you could do if you get an opportunity is just to look after yourself, as I said. And
yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's instead for you know, for your next role, for the opportunity that presents itself. You know.
Definitely. It's you know, I think we've got a bit of a challenge. Not only here, but all over the world. And you know, a lot of people get their self worth from their careers or from their business achievements, all external goals, right? And so, you know, let's say somebody gets in a role and wants to make an impression, which is a great thing to do and a great thing to aspire to. You want to enter a role, you want to be successful, you want to be respected by your peers, not necessarily liked, but respected by your peers. And at times, it's a fine line between putting in the hours to make that happen, especially when starting new. And then all of a sudden finding yourself, hey, you know what? I've been looking after everything else. I've been looking after the business side of things. I've been looking after the team, but I've forgotten about myself. And that's where I
Yeah,
see
yeah,
people get lost. And then that affects their motivation and their energy levels. And then it's just a slippery slope that then people will look to. And by the way, when I say all of this, I've been this guy. You know, I've been this,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then they'll look for other ways to feel good on a short-term basis because they're smashing themselves with work, and that's where the external substances and alcohol and drugs and medicating and blah 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 come in, and it can happen so easily. And I just wish, you know, for me, I wish more people were aware to it. But hey, you know, it's
no, it's common sense, you know. And it sounds simple, but I totally agree with you. I think you know, and I'm very susceptible to being that guy as well, right? You know,
yeah, yeah,
you know, I'm lazy. You know, I'll come home at night and switch the telly on and grab a bottle of wine or something like that. And you know, I've got a runner in the, I've got running machine in the garage, and you know, there's been times when I've looked in and I haven't been on it for a month or something like that, and I'm going, oh God, and you know, you have to force yourself to do it. But I tell you, you know, oftentimes once I've done that, and after that, I just feel like, you know, okay, I want to go again and can carry on. And you know, I think Australia for me is blessed with the most amazing countryside
oh, amazing.
and amazing weather and sort of attitude to life that just makes me feel healthier. And you know, I loved my time in Europe, and obviously I'm from Great Britain originally. Um, but and you don't know what you miss, right? But I mean, I've also lived in France for 6 years, and I lived in Canada, French-speaking Canada, when I was studying for a couple of years. So, you know, I got to see parts of the world where I wanted to live, and you know, for me, Australia gives you that whole package where you have a real opportunity to be healthy and hopefully give a bit back, and that helps me work harder, right? So if I'm healthy and I'm happy, I work harder as well. And that's the sort of, you know, you said earlier, what's the sort of mindset? I look for that in my people as well, you know.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. Like hiring people and what you're looking for in hiring people. I joked around on, well, it's kind of a joke. I was having a chat to somebody who's doing some work at the moment with us, and she's absolutely amazing. And she's kind of like cut from the same cloth as I am, because she's like, as she will say, she's all over the place, which I'm all over the place. I'm like here, there, and everywhere. And she was joking around. She goes, I'm sure I've got undiagnosed ADHD. And I said, I do as well. And I said to her, you know what? I would never hire anyone ever again if they don't have ADHD. But I would, of course. But there's something about people with high energy, short attention spans that I love. I love working with them, because they seem to have that grit. They seem to have the twinkle in their eye as well, which I've spoken about before. And yeah, it's very funny, but you kind of alluded to it yourself.
You're spot on. I mean, my middle son, he has ADHD, and he's completely out there. And I say to him, I say, you're either going to be a genius or the other end of the scale. I don't know, but because he can build the most amazing things, and he's as I said, he never sits still, and he's always involved in something, and always happy. Out of the three of them, he's the one that you go, he'll find his feet somehow, right? He'll find his feet somehow. And my wife calls me ADHD dad, because I'm kind of all like this and get forgetful, and I can't think of anything worse than doing a job that says, here you sit down from 9 to 5, you have a lunch hour at 12 till 12:30, and you very strict framework job. And I think that's why I love and why I thrive in IT, because it's throwing everything at you at all angles, and I love that variety. So yeah, when you're hiring people, you want somebody to challenge you, you want that diversity, but if they are very sort of set in their ways and very overly structured, then I think the way I run my teams, that would challenge them. So I'm more likely to hire somebody like you or me, or that person who's might be considered a little bit eccentric, or a bit out there.
Crazy.
Crazy. Energy, because you can't teach energy. You can't teach energy so much. You can teach certain aspects of the role, but you can't teach that sort of get up and I'm going to get it done, or as you said, the craziness, think out the box, and stuff. And I think it's fun. I think you got to have a bit of fun. And most of the people that I've worked for or have hired me have always said, look, your teams are always the ones that are always laughing and smiling and joking, and that sort of camaraderie, I guess. So yeah, I mean, I'd lean towards Mr. ADHD as well, if I'm
honest. Classic, mate. But you know what? It does take all types, and you do need the ones the people who would like to go to a role and start at 9 and finish in 5 and have all that structure. They're quite often the great ones who are steady and compliant and can process a lot of the stuff.
If you had all ADHD, I think you'd end up, maybe a short-lived team. You definitely need those people to keep you honest, and you definitely need those people to provide that structure. And as I said earlier, to question you and to say, well, I'm not sure that would work. So, it's the yin and the yang, isn't it? That's that classic sort of diversity thing. You've got to have all sorts, but geez, it's a bit of fun when you've got ADHD and you've got people sort of coming at you with the weirdest, wonderful things. I've lived it now for 13 years with my middle one, so I'm quite used to it. Everything that's thrown at me. He shaved his hair off yesterday just for fun, or rather, one of his school friends shaved it off for him just for fun. So, that's the life I lead with Charlie.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, exactly the same. Well, my son, a bit different now down here. They're homeschooling at the moment, obviously remote learning. So we've had all sorts of haircuts in the house. I've had a mullet. I think there's a reverse bowl coming tonight. So I'm like, I just don't know what to expect. But anything at the moment, the kids keep the kids happy and keep them entertained, and that create that variety. They need variety at the moment because everything is so same each day.
Yeah. And as I said, keep them away from the PlayStation, and just get them out there. And as I said, I don't care. As long as they're not breaking the law, as long as they can have a bit of fun, They look back. I want them to look back on their childhood and say, you know, geez, I was a bit mad then or something.
Absolutely.
You might become a vicar. Who knows? You might become a
Yeah,
vicar.
well, mate, great to chat. Welcome back to Australia. Hope you and the family
Thank
settle
you.
into the new pad. Been fantastic. All the best in the future.
Thanks.
I'm sure you'll land a great role in the channel. Exceptional knowledge, exceptional guy. Ian Hume, thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Take care, buddy. All the best.